All right, so our first piece of news today is Kathleen Kennedy. There was reports she stepped down. She was going to retire, but not really. She said, "No, I'm not retiring. I'm just moving on to something different." There within Disney, there. So clarification has been made on that. This article from IGN there says Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy responds to retirement reports confirms Star Wars succession plan, and then it has her quote: "I'm not going to be here forever." Um, Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy has responded to reports that she is set to retire later in 2025. It says earlier this week, Puck News claimed the veteran film producer was looking to retire at the end of her contract this year. Additionally, Puck claimed Kennedy previously considered retiring in 2024, but decided to hold off on making a decision. While
To the
Variety
joy
report
of fans everywhere.
This is why Variety reported that a source close to Kennedy called Puck's story pure speculation. The Higher reporter confirmed the report. Now Kennedy has responded herself. According to Deadline, Kennedy is working with Disney boss Bob Iger on a succession plan. 13 years into the job. Wow, it's been 13 years. With Star Wars
That
Rebels
feels
creator,
like forever.
Star Wars Rebel creator and current Lucasfilm chief creative officer Dave Filoni apparently in a strong position to take the role. Which I said Dave Filoni, it should be maybe him. It should be three people: Dave Filoni, John Favreau, Tony Gilroy. I think should probably be the people to take it over. But take it over. However, she insisted the truth is, I want to just say loud and clear, I am not retiring. And she says, I will never retire from movies. She continued, I will die making movies. This is the first thing that's important to say. I am not retiring. While Kennedy confirmed that Lucasfilm has every intention of making an announcement months or a year down the road on an eventual succession. She is continuing to stay at Lucasfilm. That involves producing the upcoming Mandalorian movie and a Star Wars film from Deadpool and Wolverine director Sean Levy. So yeah, that's the
They're
guy.
really just getting whoever like made money at the box office last and to like do they're doing the next one and then it never comes out and then they see box office success, let's get that person in here.
Yeah, because there was a point in time they were giving everybody a Star Wars trilogy. It's like Taika Waititi, you get a Star Wars trilogy, and dudes who did Game of Thrones, you get a Star Wars trilogy, and hell, I got a Star Wars trilogy. I mean, everybody was getting.
Oprah leaving Star Wars trilogies under everybody's chair.
Yeah, like everybody's getting a Star Wars trilogy, and then it's like, okay, sure. But yeah, Ryan Johnson, he's like he's gonna do some more movies in Star Wars, and that's never come to fruition at all. With that, it's been
That was announced before 9 even came out, if I remember right.
yeah, so yeah, still waiting on that. I think yeah, still waiting on those Ryan Johnson Star Wars movies. Um, yeah, like you said, I mean, there are tons of fan channels out there right now. They've been predicting Kathleen Kennedy was going to retire, or somebody was going to fire her, or she was going to get overtaken for like 10 years. They've been guessing that ever since Force Awakens. They've been making tons of videos like reports say that Kathleen Kennedy is going to be fired. Disaster for Disney, and it's like it's 13 years later, and now she's finally doing it. Um, like you said, to fans rejoice everywhere. Um,
I mean, if you just keep saying something over and over again, eventually you might be right.
yeah, I mean, eventually she's got to maybe do it sometime. So hey, I mean, finally right after 10 years, you finally got it. And it was always she was going to be fired. It was never she was going to step down. She was
Right.
always fired there. So at least that also part is wrong. So what do you think about this news?
I mean, I think executives don't get fired very often. Definitely not in like American corporations. It's always people lower down on the ladder that get fired if something goes wrong or something doesn't make enough money. It's never the people in charge of greenlighting those projects that fail. That just does it never happens. You see it sometimes with like Japanese companies, like was it after the like was it the Wii U failed for Nintendo? The CEO at the time took a huge pay cut and he was like, "Yep, no, this is on me. It's not on anybody else that works here. This is my problem." You don't see that with American companies, so you're never going to see someone like Kathleen Kennedy get fired. It's just never going to happen. Like she'd have to do something like the star of Amelia Perez on Twitter to for anybody to really come down on her. So I think that that's always been a fool's hope that she was going to get fired. That's never been realistic. Step down eventually, retire. That's a different story. I mean, yeah, it's going to happen eventually. Um, I am obviously not a big fan of the things that have been produced under her hand, her guiding hand at Disney and Lucasfilm. I I don't think she's like the sole reason for a lot of these things being bad. I think you know these productions are messes, and I think they don't have a plan, and they just kind of hire people that do one thing and then contradict the last person's work. And I mean, some of that's on her too. Don't get me wrong, because you're at the top of the whole thing. You should be in charge of making sure there's like a plan in place. And then it's not just whim after whim after whim, and just literally changing direction and deciding what you want to do based on what direction the wind blows that day, which is what it feels like a lot of the Star Wars stuff has been. Um, I mean, I think it's a good thing for her to step down. Like, I would like to see someone else be in charge of running this property because I don't think she's done a good job. But I don't think that it's going to suddenly get better just because someone else came in. I mean, look at all the praise Kevin Feige got for years with the MCU. But once things started, it just started being so many things and the quality became less consistent. It started throwing him under the bus. So, it's a tricky job to be able to kind of balance those things. Don't get me wrong, I don't envy someone in that position and having that much like pressure on you to deliver with something that so many people are like so in love with and obsessed with. Um, Especially when some people are going to hate it no matter what, even if it is good, right? There's that certain class of people that will just it doesn't matter what it is. They're ready for something to complain about. Uh, so I again, I don't think she's probably deserves 100% of the blame, but I think she deserves some portion of it for sure.
60%, 70%.
60, 70, probably somewhere in there. Um, but she also can't be the only problem. That she's not the only problem, and I doubt that it gets better with the next person. I doubt it gets better because like Dave Filoni, I know his name's thrown around a lot, and people hope he gets to be in charge. I think he's kind of proved to me that he really only knows how to handle like animation, and the stuff that he's worked on that's been live action. I think has been just as bad as the stuff that's been under Kathleen Kennedy's direction. So like I'm not excited about the idea of him taking over either. Um, I I really don't know who I would want to do it. I mean, Tony Gilroy, I think, is a great writer, but I think Andor is good because he had a single story very fleshed out in his head, and he said, "I'm going to commit and tell this story to the best of my ability." I would just be surprised if he's got like a universe blueprint sort of way of thinking kind of in mind. I think he just had one great story that he was like, I want to execute this well, like a Vince Gilligan with Breaking Bad, or name a showrunner that delivered on some kind of prestige
Noah
television.
Hawley.
Yeah, Noah Hawley, or like Noah Hawley doing like this alien show this summer. I'm interested in that because I think he probably had an idea and he's like, all right, let me just execute this idea and then we'll move on and you guys can do what you want with the franchise when I leave. And that's kind of how I see Tony Gilroy. Now I could be wrong. Maybe he's got way more ideas. Um, and then John Favreau, like, I mean, I like him as a director, but I was never that crazy about The Mandalorian, so he's not exactly made anything I've been impressed by inside the Star Wars franchise. So, like, there is no one I can name that would be like, oh yeah, I'd be excited about that person running Star Wars. That person just does not exist for me.
Mm, yeah. Um. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to completely remove blame from Kathleen Kennedy. Like I say, I mean, she was still the president of Lucasfilm and ahead a lot of these decisions, and did green light a lot of this stuff. But I also think it was external, outside. She does have a boss, and she does have people that shareholders, and obviously other people that she might listen to. And in a position like that, it comes down to the bottom line, the dollar, not really so
Mhm.
much the creativity and artistic value of this thing. It's like, okay, can we actually make money from this and a profit? And that's where you saw, a lot of the member berries. And do you remember this from Star Wars? And do you remember this from Star Wars? And you had Force Awakens, which was basically hell, it's just a New Hope again. And
It's a total remake.
I like Force Awakens. I think Force Awakens is a lot of fun as a movie. I think it's fun, and it's got good pacing, it's got a lot of speed to it. It's a fun movie, but it is Force Awakens again. Um, and like you said, a person in that position, I think you can put anybody in that position. I mean, this is obviously you can't really say because nobody has. Well, there was George Lucas, but who's the
And
only
I
one.
don't think that was good either.
Yeah, I mean, so, if you wanna go off his reign and his tenure there, I mean, he did end with the prequels and everything like that, so that was not
I
good.
think that's the worst it's been. Still, I think that is the absolute bottom that Star Wars has achieved so far. So
Yeah,
I would not yearn for those days to come back.
and it's been an incredibly mixed bag when it comes to Disney since they took it on Star. Like you said, Andor, I love Andor.
Yeah,
Love
it's
Andor.
fantastic.
I like some of the sequel movies. Like I said, Force Awakens, and I like Last Jedi. I know that's divisive. There's that. I like Rogue One. I know you don't like Rogue One. It's okay. I didn't like Solo, and I didn't really like Rise. I hate Rise of Skywalker. I think that's the worst. Is that the worst thing
I
they've
think
ever
that's
done?
the worst. I still think Phantom Menace is worse.
Well, when Disney got it, is that the worst thing they've
Oh, post Disney. I think that Boba Fett show might be worse. I mean, he's getting beat up by Jawas, man. Like
The Boba Fett show, yeah, but
that
I
was
think
bad.
Rise of Skywalker, I think might be worse. Rise of Skywalker. And then like the
Close
shows,
at least.
that's I think with the shows you really see it where, and then they just made an announcement with Disney Plus that they're not going to do any more long form content on Disney Plus anymore. And I think when
Now, is that for everything? What I thought I read was it was specifically Disney Animation would no longer do long form content. Not like that all of their
oh yeah, it was
divisions
just
would stop doing it,
animation
but
stuff.
just Disney Animation.
Yeah, the animation stuff, yeah. But with that, it's just like they created this streaming service and they created and in order to having a return on their investment of spending all this money on this streaming service, they were like, we need to create content for the streaming
Yeah.
service. We need to. So, what's our two big properties? Marvel and Star Wars. We got to make a lot of Marvel shows and a lot of Star Wars shows. We got to pump these
Yeah.
out and put them on
Gotta
this.
drive both franchises into the ground.
Yeah, and pump them out, and so we can attract people to subscribe. Even though I think they said that Disney Plus lost like 700,000 subscribers this past
Yeah,
quarter.
nearly a million. Yeah.
So, yeah, because you keep pumping this shit out and it's mid. A lot of this shit is mid to just terrible. And you get one bright spot of something like Andor, but then you get a lot of mid like Obi-Wan and Ahsoka, stuff that people were excited for an Ahsoka show.
I was personally. I am specifically the target audience for that show because I really enjoyed the Rebels animated series as it was airing. I thought that was actually quite strong for for kids, but strong nonetheless. And so Ahsoka kind of being this direct follow up, like a season 5 of that. I was like specifically the person that show was made to appeal to, and I thought it was. I didn't even finish it. I thought it was so boring.
Yeah. And I like Rebels. I never finished it. I have to finish Rebels, but I like Rebels. But yeah, I mean, people were saying, "Oh, it's my characters in live action. It's my favorite characters there." First of all, Mary Elizabeth Winstead looked weird as hell. I mean, I'm sorry, she looked freaky as like
it's
with the
the contacts. I don't know why they did that. I guess the character had blue eyes in the show, but like it does. It looks disturbing.
it looks freaky as hell. I was like, "This is weird." But yeah, and then Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka was so dry and like,
Every character was dry. They all had their personalities sucked out of them. I mean, it's like when people talk about the prequels and like George Lucas's direction with the actors being really bad. It's like they aren't expressing emotions for so much of those movies because the director doesn't know how to get emotions out of the actors. It was that problem all over again in that show. Like basically 90% of the cast was the same stoic warrior archetype. Like almost all of them just have the same personality.
yeah. So that was disappointing. So yeah, I mean, you just kind of it's what we talked about with Penguin. It's like that's an actual idea that somebody was like, I got an idea for a story. I want to put it on here, and let's do it. And you actually can see that as opposed
That's
to
why I think James Gunn's DC is positioned to be potentially the best of these universes because he's refusing to greenlight things until the scripts are done.
uh, so. I think that's a kind of a big problem. So again, I think that stuff like that kind of is down to the bosses, not really her. Of like, we got to push this. We got to really put. We got to make a return on the investment of Star Wars, and then also making all these announcements of Star Wars projects, like we talked about, like all these directors, like this director is going to get a Star Wars trilogy, and this director is going to get a Star Wars trilogy, and it's like,
And never making any of them.
and never making any, and build and trying to build all this excitement. It's like they were trying to do like the Marvel thing of like, let's have
Yeah.
this whole list of movies so people can get excited about it and build up hype before a script is even made, a director's even attached, actors are even attached. Anything we got is just like, let's just build up excitement for this thing. And that also, I think, just drives it into the ground with that.
You got to focus on making a good story first, and then the success. If you do that, success will eventually come later.
And this article ends with so Deadline asked Kennedy point blank whether she'll step down as Lucasfilm boss this year, and she replied to say she didn't know at this stage, but confirmed it'd be 100% my decision. Kennedy wouldn't say whether Filoni was in line for the top job. Um, so yeah, I don't know. So it's still up in the air. She's speaking like Yoda, up in the air, talking about whether she's gonna stay or not. There.
I also saw because I saw this interview. She also was asked point blank, "Do you have any regrets from this job?" And she just was like, "No, no. I think we did a great job with everything."
Yeah. Do you think from a financial perspective, from like bosses, like we talk about shareholders, Bob Iger, do you think, I mean, this is obviously speculating, just you just kind of guessing. Do
Yeah,
you think they're pleased with her perform? I mean, if they weren't, they probably fired her, right?
I think they are certainly pleased with her from the box office performance of the films. Because all of those did well, regardless of what you think about them, they did make money. The Disney Plus shows, I think that's the where it comes into question. Is like I feel like those are probably losing money,
Yeah.
but again, it's hard to say because they don't release a lot of. They're not as transparent about the numbers with these things. Um, but like we know that the viewership is dropping off. We know 700,000 people unsubscribed from Disney Plus in the last quarter of 2024. So, but the other thing is it's not just Star Wars. That's happening with the Marvel shows. That's happening with everything they put on that platform. So I also don't think they can come in and go like, Kathleen Kennedy, it's your fault that people are unsubscribing from Disney Plus. Like, there's no way to attribute that directly to her. So I don't know. I think the movies they're probably happy with the box office of. The shows, I think they're probably not happy with the profit. But I also, again, I think there's all sorts of other factors mixed in that they can't necessarily blame her for that either.
Yeah. I think it's a good point because because there's been 5 Star Wars movies, right? And it's been the 3 sequel trilogy,
Yeah,
Solo,
Rogue One.
Rogue One, and that was
Yeah,
it, right?
yeah, that's it.
So out of the 5, 3 of those crossed a billion.
Right.
And
So I
then
mean, yeah, that's like, how could you not be happy with the box office?
yeah. Well, actually, did Rogue One make a billion too?
Maybe I don't remember.
Yeah, because I think Rise of Skywalker made a billion, right? Or
Yeah, sadly,
it did. I don't remember. Let me see if Rogue One made a billion. Actually, let me see if that actually made a billion.
I know
Uh,
Solo didn't. I know that one
Solo
did not.
didn't, but Solo you can't even really blame it because that got put out like it was jammed, packed in like the year I think it was in. Because I forgot what else came out around that time. It was
I'll
like,
I'll tell you, this might be a divisive opinion. That's the only movie out of all of five of those that I actually enjoyed.
well, I hate Rise of Skywalker the most. After that, I would say I'd like Solo the least. I'd
Yeah,
say I like Solo. I
yeah.
just
I just straight up dislike all of them except that one. I had fun with that one.
yeah, Rogue One made a billion. So 4 of
Okay,
those did make a billion. So yeah,
Yeah, so there's no reason to fire her then if you're those shareholders. Like, because the shareholders don't care whether these movies are good. They have, I mean, and clearly there's lots of people that do think they're good, right? I mean, this is just my own opinion, right? Clearly there's people that think that all of those movies are good and they went and saw them. Probably some of them saw them multiple times. I've have friends that like those movies, and it's to each their own. But from the shareholders' perspective, there's no reason to have fired her based on how well those performed.
yeah. So in May, so you understand why Solo got crushed because Solo came out in May 2018. You know what other movies came out in May 2018?
I don't remember.
Spider-Man: Homecoming,
Infinity War?
Infinity War,
Ooh, okay. Yeah.
Black Panther, A Quiet Place, and Project X. Those were the big
Yeah.
movies that came out around that time.
Yeah,
So
no, they had no chance.
yeah, that movie was so Infinity War, especially because I think that was the big movie that came like around the same time, close to when Solo released. So it's like, well, fuck Solo. I'm gonna see
Yeah, that was
Infinity War.
definitely May.
Yeah, so yeah, it just got crushed. Yeah, with that. So you don't think anybody? Yeah, this pretty much that job is cursed. There's nobody that can turn the
I
tide
mean,
around. Or
I don't want to say no one with like certainty. I mean, I think it's always possible someone could come in and be like, "Hey, I have great ideas here. I have a plan. I have a map here, and I want to follow this, and I know where I want to go." It could happen. Um, I think like obviously not everybody's excited about it, but like I'm excited about James Gunn's DC, and I would have said that the DC universe was the worst of these cinematic universes not that long ago because the executives kept mishandling it and kept changing their mind constantly and then announcing things that either didn't get made or they canceled for a tax write-off or they made Wonder Woman a rapist, all sorts of irrational decisions. And but hey, the executives got desperate, started, and eventually they asked someone who seems like they have a plan and idea and real ideas in mind. And now I'm like, hey, this is the one I'm looking forward to the most now. So that could happen with Star Wars. Like I think there's always that possibility. I just don't know who that person would be.
mm, well, God bless them, whoever takes over that job. May the force be with you, literally.
Yeah,
If you had
absolutely.
that job. So yeah, that was the news on Kathleen Kennedy. Real quick trailer talk. Here we'll jam these trailers together. Discuss. I mean, it's not even really a trailer. Teaser cast announcement here for Shrek 5. Let's take a look at it.
Who's the fairest of them all? Why, Shrek, of course. Ah!
Ew, Dad.
Woohoo, Mom and light.
Who's making this stuff?
Whoa! Shrek 5, starring Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, Cameron Diaz, and Zendaya? Oh, damn. Only in theaters. Christmas 2026.
There you go. So people were complaining about how they look. They said I guess it looks too
I think it looks
polished.
fine. It's just better animation, and so they look a little. I mean, if you look at some screenshots of the original movie, those models they're a little funky looking now. Like, yeah, it's a little different, but like it's not without like reason for being a little different. Like, I get maybe it takes a second to get used to it, but like I don't know. I don't really understand what people are complaining about. Other than I just don't think we need more Shrek movies. I mean, I understand that complaint, but I don't really see an issue with how they look.
Are you a Shrek? Did you like the Shrek movies?
I enjoyed the first two, but even as a kid, seeing that third one, I remember going like, I think I'm out. I think I'm done. I don't know. And I never saw anything after that. I thought that Puss in Boots, the Last Wish, was that what it was called? I
Yeah.
thought that was remarkably good, like surprisingly good. From what 2 years ago now that came out, I was
Well,
very surprised at how much I enjoyed that. But I mean, I haven't cared about this franchise since I was literally a child.
yeah. Um, I don't know. Maybe it gives me hope with this Shrek 5. I've never been that super into Shrek. Like I thought, funny. It was all right. Um, and I heard it kind of went off a cliff because I didn't see 3 or 4. I don't think I ever saw those ones.
Probably a good thing.
But I like you said, I love Last Wish. Last Wish is awesome.
Yeah, that was great.
That was amazing. I think that year it got nominated, but I think didn't it lose to? I think it lost to Spider-Verse that year. I think.
It did. I think you're right. I can't quite remember, but I think you're right.
I think it lost to Spider-Verse that year. But yeah, I mean that was awesome. The animation, it kind of was one of those things people mark of like you see the influence now of anime kind of coming in with Western animators. Like they watch a bunch of anime, so that's coming more into a bunch of Western animation.
There was straight up like Attack on Titan homage stuff going on in there.
Yeah. I mean, like it was just really, really great what they did with that. So I don't know, maybe it's gonna be some Shrek type stuff with that.
Maybe, but the TikTok mirror doesn't quite give me that hope.
Somebody actually typed in Puss in Boots Attack on Titan. Did you ever see this? Is somebody playing the music of Attack on Titan mixed with Puss in Boots?
I haven't, but that's that. I could already imagine it fits very well.
Let's see a little bit.
It seems right. It feels right.
Yeah. So you got that going. But yeah, that was just kind of it. People just freaking out over it. I don't know. I think it looks fine. I mean, again, it's 2025. That animation from 2001 looks incredibly dated.
Yeah,
And they just kind of updated. I mean, it looks like just cleaner kind of
they
animation.
look like the same characters for the most part. Like, I mean, they have some wrinkles in their face. It looks like the characters have aged too. So like they also look a little different for that reason. So, you know, again, it didn't bother me at all. I don't really understand it. It's just kind of, guys, you're adults. Why do you care about this in the first place?
Oh yeah, isn't that meme? Let me pull up that meme there of Peter Parker there. Let me see if I can find that one. But it's like, did you know the Shrek characters look ugly? And I was like, Peter, you're 29. Like it's time to it's time to move on, man. It's like, come on, man.
You're spending too much time thinking about Shrek.
Like it's time to move on there, man. I think you sent me it, didn't you, one time?
Yeah, no, I didn't.
Oh yeah, here's it. Here is it right here. It's like, yeah. Let me see if I can blow it up more. And then yeah, it says, "Do you see how fucking ugly Shrek's daughter is?" And it says the trailer was so mid. It wasn't even a trailer, but it says, "Peter, you're 29." It's like, come on, man. It's time. It's time to let it go.
It's just a little too much focus on Shrek in your life if you're really too that worried about this.
You need some other things to be worried about, I think, in life.
Yeah.
You need to be worried about how mid Daredevil is. That's the big concern.
I'd be far more worried about that.
That's the big concern. We got to save Daredevil again. We saved it one time. We got to save it again. So yeah, that was Shrek news there. Video game news. Here. So Warner Brothers. Discovery cancels Wonder Woman video game and closes 3 game studios. What do you have to say about this, Sage?
Well, it is a big and continued sign of just the kind of just terrible executive mismanagement that's been going on at Warner Brothers for a long time, honestly. Um, I mean, I really enjoyed both Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor, created by Monolith, which is one of the studios that was shut down, right? They were the team working on Wonder Woman. But even in 2018, when Shadow of War, the second one came out, that was like after Star Wars Battlefront 2, that was the second most controversial game that year. And if you remember, Star Wars Battlefront 2 was actually sued by like governments because it was accused of being a Star Wars themed casino for children. And though I think Shadow of War, it didn't blow up as bad as that, Shadow of War did have this like true ending that was like locked behind having to grind to like get like better orcs to defend your castles with, to like win like a big battle. And, of course, you could buy loot crates or loot boxes or whatever that would get you like higher level orcs. So like that was the last game Monolith released. That was 2018. Early, I think, in the year in 2018. I want to say it was like still like cold outside when the game came out. And that hampered that game a bit. Now, I mean, I think it's still a good game, especially like today. All that stuff was kind of patched out, so like you can go play that, and it's not in there anymore. But for this studio, I mean, this studio had been around since the '90s. They did like the Fear games on like the original Xbox. They've been around a long time. You'll see their title on quite a few things. And I'd been hearing stuff about this Wonder Woman games production being a bit of a mess for a while. Now, at one point in 2023, there was like a report that they came out and were like, no, this is not a live service game. This is a single player game. But it was only then in 2024 that Warner Brothers and David Zaslav came out and was like, well, actually, we really need every video game that we release to be live service. And I have heard, now this is some hearsay and speculation and kind of rumor, but I have heard people say that in 2024, behind the scenes, they were quietly forced to start turning the game into a live service game. And this is after Monolith came up with this genius nemesis system, right? That like where these enemy NPCs you'd like seemingly kill them, but they'd come back injured. They'd like remember your actions, and it would create like this personal history in the game world. And this Wonder Woman game. So originally they were going to do like an original game. They were going to do something totally new, totally original IP. And then Warner Brothers goes like, well, you know what? We need it to be an IP we own. Howdy, Cal. They said, hey, go back, put it in Wonder Woman, put it in something that we own. So they're like, okay, well, we'll try and find a way to work it in here. And then, again, some of this is hearsay, but as to what I understand, that became a giant mess. They couldn't work it in. They changed it to be like a friend version of the system instead of an enemy-based system. Then they took it out altogether because they couldn't get it to work. Then they were forced to make it a live service game. So I've heard a lot about the production of this just being a complete mess. So I'm honestly not surprised by the fact that this happened. They haven't released the game in 8 years at this point, or 7 years at this point, something like that. And there's just so many problems. But this is all Warner Brothers. This is all executive meddling. Every game needs to be a live service game. We can't release anything else. They think every one of these executives thinks they see Fortnite, they see Marvel Rivals is the newest one. They see these successful live service games and they think, well, why can't every game we've released be this successful? And they don't understand that there's like only so much market share. If you're going to release a successful live service game, you need to pull players away from an already successful live service game. And especially with these ones like this Wonder Woman game, this was going to come out and be probably $70 and then also have live service elements on top of that. Like Marvel Rivals works because it's free. That's if you had to pay $70 to get that game, and then it had all the microtransactions, I don't think it would be doing nearly as well as it is. And they don't seem to understand that. I mean, that's why Player First Games, right? That also is one of the studios that got shut down. They tried to do their own Smash Bros. Game with Warner Brothers properties. Well, guess what? They made it a live service game, and doing exactly. It wouldn't be doing well if there was a cost to entry. They seem to just, these executives don't understand that. Like no matter how many of these failures happen, they just don't seem to get it. I'm blanking on his name now, but like the head of Warner Brothers Gaming stepped down in the last 2 months or so. And I don't know if the leadership change here is going to be better, if the new people or new person in this position is going to is canceling stuff like this Wonder Woman game because of the live service elements and because he could tell it wasn't working. But this is also how you drive talent away from your studio. If your studio is known for making great single player games that are story driven, exploration, narrative, combat driven games that are for like one player to run through, and then all of a sudden executives come in and say, well, actually, you've got to do this other completely other kind of thing. That's how you get employees leaving the studio. I mean, I've heard, and this goes for many studios outside of just Warner Brothers. But there's a lot of studios I've heard where you see their name on a announcement teaser or a poster, and that's there to try and get people somewhat excited. Let's say Rocksteady is a great example. Oh, they made the Batman Arkham games. People love those. And so you put Rocksteady's name on, oh, hey, they might be doing a Batman Beyond game now. But in all the time that Suicide Squad game that bombed, all the time that was being made, the people that made those Batman Arkham games were quitting and going to work at different studios. So you take the team you have now, it's a different team. Yeah, it's called Rocksteady. Monolith was called Monolith, but these teams aren't the same teams anymore. Like, it doesn't mean that these new teams aren't capable of doing good things, because I'm sure they probably are, but it's a different team of people. And so I think there's also this like marketing trick that's trying to be pulled over people with like, oh, the game. Well, we are talking about the general Warner Brothers just shut down multiple studios, canceled this Wonder Woman game. So we're just discussing this like lack of foresight and understanding as to how game development even works, and like there's this expectation that I think the marketing department is like, well, hey, Rocksteady, people know them because they made Batman. People will be into whatever they're doing now, but it's not the same team because you forced a live service project on them, and it's not the same team anymore. And that's, I think, exactly what happened to Monolith here with the Wonder Woman game. They made all these other things. They did Fear back in the day. They did Middle Earth games, but in the 8 years they've been working on this Wonder Woman game that then slowly got turned into like a live servicey thing. People were quitting, people were leaving, people were going. In fact, what I've heard is a lot of the people that left Monolith are now working on this Black Panther game that's in development right now. So I'm actually excited about that because, hey, I like some of these team members, but they're just, again, I mean, these executives, they don't know what they're doing. There's so much mismanagement at the executive level that, yeah, I mean, you're getting these disastrous. This Wonder Woman game had $100 million spent on it already, and it's never going to come out.
You sent me a Twitter thread there of Gail Simone. She
Yes,
spoke about it, and she was a consultant on it. I'll go ahead and read the tweets here. And Gail Simone, comic book writer there, wrote for a lot of comic books. People love her runs on various
she did a very famous run for Wonder Woman. That's very, very good.
Yes. Very, very good. Let's check out what Gail Simone has to say. So she said, okay, regarding Wonder Woman, the Wonder Woman video game, others have already revealed elsewhere that I was a consultant on this game, so that Cheetah is out of the bag. Oh, that's a nice play on words there. Cheetah being a villain there. So I want to say a couple important things about the game and the team who made it. So she goes on to say, I was asked to do long-term consulting on the game, and I was thrilled to do it. It was a perfect storm of stuff I adore: Wonder Woman, video games, and one of my favorite game studios, Monolith, who produced Game of the Year, the Mordor games, that I was completely addicted to. The game was gorgeous and expansive. It was beautiful to look at. I am not going to give details for a number of reasons, but every effort was made to make this not just a great game, but a great Wonder Woman game and a showpiece epic. And all of that was because of the team. Everyone who worked on it brought their A game: programmers, artists, designers, everyone. I don't know that I ever worked with a team that cared more about making sure the end product was perfect. It was a dream come true. Wonder Woman had a dream team, and they put their all into it. They made sure it had Wonder Woman and DC lore on every aspect of the game. It was a thrill and honor to work with them. I know there's a lot of finger pointing going on, but everyone I worked with from Monolith and WB both were enthusiastic and supportive. Everyone wanted to make the best game ever. Sometimes you give your all and it doesn't work out, but that was an amazing team, and I can only hope they continue to make brilliant games. Someone is going to snap them all up and set a new industry standard. I know. Well, some of them have already been, like you say, some have already been
Some
snapped
of
up
them are working
already.
on Black Panther.
Yeah. I feel this guy. The first reply to the tweet I'm looking at here is, "Yo, this hurt my heart. Sounds like this game is going to be epic. This is almost as bad as not getting Scalebound uh,
Mm.
there." So yeah, it sounds like it was a awesome game. I was excited for a Wonder Woman game, given especially with Wonder Woman's skill set, the lasso, the sword, the shield, the combat options you could have done with that. That would have been
Very kind of God of War action. I mean, you could do a lot with it.
yeah. So that's incredibly disappointing. So in this article right here from MSN.com here, so the studios that got shut down here. So you have, of course, we mentioned Monolith Productions already, but there was also Player First Games and Warner Brothers Games San Diego, with 3 that got shut down there, and we'll see what happens. So it's all going to be consolidated into kind of just one thing that they're going to head up there with Warner Brothers Gaming instead of that. Instead of there. Yeah. So this was incredibly disappointing to hear, especially when we read that news about, hey, future projects, the cohesive DC universe, and that includes games
Yep.
as well. Uh, oh, Cal said, I love how you have an ad telling you how to remove ads. Yeah.
That's funny.
Uh, yeah. But yeah. Any final thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, I feel like I already ranted about executives and mismanagement quite a bit, but just let your if you have a bunch of talented individuals, let them make the game that they want to make, and obviously there has to be some oversight. I'm not saying that you don't have any, but I think especially with Warner Brothers recently, I mean, you see it with the movies, you see them canceling stuff for tax write-offs, you see them changing their mind constantly. Yeah, exactly. And I believe everything Gail Simone said there. I'm sure that team was putting a lot of heart, a lot of effort in, and it just sounds like, yeah, executives forcing decisions on the studio, just pushing them in different directions based on the whim of the moment and what you know, because they don't know what they're doing. They're not creatives. They're money men. They need to. Sure, again, some oversight is necessary. Don't get me wrong, but these executives and at Warner Brothers in particular right now, I feel like they're particularly bad. They need to get out of the way and just they provide the money and do a little oversight, and otherwise shut the hell up.
Mm. And like you said, and you said in Gail Simone, those people have been snapped up, and a lot of them have moved on to doing this game, which is the Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra game.
So actually, I'm talking about the standalone Black Panther game that's
Oh,
untitled as of right now. It's confusing because there are 2 different like Black Panther games happening right now. But there is this 1943 Rise of Hydra game with Black Panther, Captain America. But there is an untitled Black Panther game in development under EA currently. And it's like a new studio that was formed out of a bunch of ex-Monolith staff. And
oh,
that is who is producing that. So there's technically 2 Black Panther games
oh,
currently in the works.
okay, awesome. So we'll see that. We'll see the work of that pretty soon, then, pretty much sure though. But with this Rise of Hydra game, this is coming out this year, Christmas time.
Yeah. Yeah, we
So
got that. Is it the voice actor for Black Panther in the game, I think, is the one that said something about that.
yeah, so yeah, we got that to look forward to. As far as superhero games go, we do have that to
Oh
look
yeah.
forward to. Hopefully, it's great. Looks great. With
It's
that,
I mean it's Amy Hennig, and there's a few names in gaming where if somebody's attached to it, I'll be like, all right, I'm willing to just kind of go with it, kind of however it turns out, and that she is one of those few names.
yeah. So that was our news there for Warner Brothers. Wonder Woman game canceled. Let's do this review, and then we head out of here. I'll go ahead and read somebody after this. Don't want to keep you for too long. Here.
I mean, I'm good. I'm good to go however long we go.
Yeah, the tributes there. Since we're doing reviews of their movies anyway, I'll just work that into when we do reviews of their movies, like Gene Hackman and everything like that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so
Did you want to do the Tony Hawk one still or no?
yeah, let's do Tony Hawk. Uh, so Tony Hawk, Pro Skater, 3+4. Uh, yeah, so this one. Okay, let's do it. All right, let's go. Let's look at this trailer for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. 3 plus 4. Were you a fan of the game series there?
I was. I played a ton of 3 and 4 specifically back in the day. I think these were some of the best games of their generation, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's PlayStation 2, right? With this
Yeah,
debut.
PlayStation 2. I want to say the first two might have been PS1.
Yeah, I think the first one. I remember the. Yeah, I think the first one PS1. I think I gotta mute this because they playing that song.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, hey, that's a big iconic soundtrack that this franchise had too. And the remake of 1+2 had like 90% of the songs back. So hopefully that means oh, that's yeah, SSX is another fun one too. I'd love to see that come back. Um, yeah, I mean, I've never been like a sports guy really. I never played, stuff like Madden or NHL or MLB or any of those games, but I got into this. I was into this as a kid. I mean, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't partially because you could play as like Wolverine and Spider-Man in these games. So there's like a little nerdy thing kind of as like these guest characters that sucked me in. But I stayed for the gameplay. I mean, I think these games were just really finely tuned, really just great feeling games to play. The kind of arcadiness of them just worked on a lot of levels. And they're bringing the guest characters back this time around. They couldn't get the rights to Spider-Man on that last one, but hey, you got some now. And this was in the PC version of 3 way back in the day. Yeah, Darth Maul. Yep, hell yeah, Darth Maul was in 3 back in the day. And
Oh, Doom is riding
Doom
his.
Doom guy. Yeah. And he like pulls his like chainsaw out and will like use it to like create sparks. Um yeah, the Doom guy was actually playable in the PC version of Pro Skater 3 back when it originally came out. So this is a returning character. I think the Revenant is new. I don't think that was the thing before. But I mean I'd love to see more of them come back. Darth Maul, Wolverine, uh, Shrek. We just talked about Shrek. Shrek was in the Pro Skater 4. I believe it was Shrek and Django Fett were in that one. Um, I'd love to see them get a bunch more of that the goofy stuff in there. I know they also had like a lot of musicians as like playable characters in there. I don't know if they're going to do any of that again, but
You,
this is
you
another fun.
want to play as MGK and Tony Hawk?
No, no, I don't.
Okay. So yeah,
They
this is
don't.
basically how Shrek looked in '01. Yeah, this is the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Same
I'm
anime.
sure if they had the updated version, people would find a way to complain. He's taking up a lot of the screen too. It's like he's almost like obscuring the view of the environment in some shots there.
Yeah. Let me see the one with Darth Maul and the hoverboard there.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. You
Yeah.
could, and each of those characters they'd all do like tricks. Like they do different versions of tricks based. Like Spider-Man would actually like pull his skateboard around with his webs and like knock it around and do specific moves. Darth Maul, you could stop and you could force choke like NPCs in certain levels, and you'd get points for it. Like it would count as like a move. Um,
Does he have
yeah,
a?
yeah.
Did he do a thing where he like missed one and then he got cut in half or something like that?
Unfortunately, not. I would love to have seen that, but that would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Let me see here. So this was Spider-Man. We got Spider-Man right here.
And they had because Activision had made the like Spider-Man game for the PlayStation 1. So they were literally just able to take the model from that and copy it over. So you also had like Spider-Man, symbiote suit Spider-Man, Cosmic Spider. You had like several Spider-Man costumes in the game. So I mean that was like a very fun extra novelty to it that I do wish that they could have all of that in the new ones. But I mean, hey, get the Doom guy in there. At least that's one really big cool one.
Yeah. And this comes out 3 plus 4 there July 11th.
Super soon. Yeah. I mean, this was its reveal trailer. I mean, it's only just getting announced and it's coming out in July. That's awesome. I wish more games did that, where they just said nothing about it. And then, like, a couple months before they were ready, they're just like, hey, guess what? It's coming out in like 4 months.
Mm, yeah. So you're gonna be picking it up first?
This is a day one purchase for me.
Okay.
100%.
Day one purchase.
I've actually put in the 1+2 remake the other day, and I've been playing a ton of that just because it's got me all amped up.
Okay, awesome. Are you gonna stream it, or are you just gonna play it just on your free time?
I don't think I'll stream it because of the music.
Ah, okay.
That's the only sad thing,
Yeah.
because I feel like you'd have to just turn all the music off, and then it's like that's such a big part of the game's personality. But
Okay, yeah, because you can't upload it to YouTube after, and then the stream will be muted after you do it. It's set
right,
muted. So yeah, that makes sense there. So yeah. So that was Tony Hawk Skater 3+4 there. Good trailer.
little dose of nostalgia.
Yeah, good nostalgia. Good memory berries there.
Yeah, they're not always bad. Sometimes member berries are fun.